Allegiant Air offers some of the cheapest flights in the United States. Is Allegiant Air good? Is Allegiant Air reliable? Does Allegiant Air provide a good customer experience? Today, we'll answer all these questions and establish why Allegiant Air is a quality option for passengers on a budget. This is going to be a blast, and I'm super excited for this. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started, everybody. Welcome everybody to the full Allegiant Air experience. Today we're really going to establish why I believe Allegiant is a great option for customers on a budget, and I'm really excited to dive into all this. So welcome to Tulsa International Airport, everybody. Allegiant Air serves 5 destinations out of Tulsa, and this is pretty standard for most of their operations. Today, we'll be utilizing one of their coolest offerings as we make our way to Destin, Florida. This is such a cool non-stop route, and I'm super excited to utilize it for the first time. Let's go ahead and find our aircraft for today's flight. Today's flight will be operating on November 284 November Victor, an 11-year-old Airbus A320. I'm super excited for today's flight, and I hope all of you are as well. Let's go ahead and get on board, everybody. Welcome to seat 4F, everybody. As you can see, this is an awesome wing engine view combo, and I'm really excited for this power up and thrust reduction. So with that being said, let's go ahead and push back from the gate, everybody. Be sure to stay on the lookout for all those in-flight videos, as those will be coming out very soon. And here we go for our takeoff on runway 36 right, everybody. I really hope all of you enjoyed this, as this was a wonderful takeoff. Alrighty, everybody, welcome to the in-flight assessment. I'm really excited to answer all these questions, as it's safe to say that Allegiant's a really cool carrier, but first I want to give you all the information so you can decide what you think. So let's go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, if you don't know, Allegiant Air is a United States ULCC, which is an ultra low-cost carrier, providing flights to many markets that typically wouldn't have much air service at a budget. So excited to establish these fundamentals that some of you already know, but to really get into some more detail, we'll explain it. So what Allegiant's main purpose is they serve markets that are really small and only have flights from some of the larger carriers on a limited basis. So for example, we're talking about places like Minot, North Dakota, or even like a Kalispell, Montana, or another good one would be Appleton, Wisconsin. Some of these markets that have your service to Chicago or wherever, Detroit, but they don't have flights to the beach or other leisure destinations that these leisure folks want to take advantage of. So that's exactly where Allegiant fits in. Unlike some of the other low-cost carriers like Frontier and Spirit that operate some of the larger city combos like your Atlanta to Orlando's or whatever it is, Allegiant really establishes these markets that don't have much air service at all to provide an opportunity for them to get to some of these places. So we have a couple of routes here to establish that I think will provide a really comprehensive understanding. And another great part about Allegiant is most of their flights are really affordable for the customer. Obviously, there's some markets like Minot, North Dakota that are going to be higher by default, because obviously Minot, North Dakota is very limited. They have a train and a little bit of air service, so obviously that'll be higher by default. But let's go ahead and establish kind of what you can expect on some of these routes. So first and foremost, it's very important to establish that Allegiant Air operates only 25% of their routes on competition. About 75% of their routes have no competition, period. So that will proportionally be established here. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So some of their lowest offerings can be found on some of their flights out of Las Vegas, for example, which is their headquarters, by the way. So for example, a route that has competition from both Frontier and Spirit, Las Vegas to Indianapolis, you can find flights on Allegiant as low as $58 as of right now, but then you can find some that are as high as $150. So obviously Allegiant finding what works best for them, competing on those routes. Another route that has some competition, Las Vegas and Cincinnati, you can find flights for about $75, which makes sense obviously because you have, I think it's Spirit that's competing on that one, Spirit or Frontier, that have that route as well, but of course Allegiant making their footprint known in that market as well. And then we have some unique markets like Las Vegas to Tulsa that they operate. Obviously Southwest operates that route twice a day, but then Allegiant operates it twice a week, so you can find fares for about $81, which Allegiant's still able to get the volume on that route and also still produce profit off of charging on average $81. Obviously, the outbound flight on the weekend is going to be your more profitable segment, but you're still able to make some money on the return flights both ways. So we'll talk about that concept here in a moment, but that's kind of important to establish right there. Then we get into some monopoly markets that are really important. Let's first and foremost start with concepts that need to be established, such as the connecting opportunities that Frontier will provide to try to compete with Allegiant. A really great example of this is Sioux Falls to Las Vegas. As you'll see, Allegiant fares for about $98, but then they reduce their prices if Frontier is offering a connection through Denver on select days. So you can see flights for as low as $50, which is really helpful. Or at least one of the two of them is matching. It just depends on the exact situation, but you can definitely notice that at markets like that. But then we get into the example that I think is really great for Allegiant and why Allegiant really is a really awesome operation, in my opinion. Las Vegas, the Minot, North Dakota, excuse me. It's quite a segment there. That's a really big haul, but that flight can be found on average for like $130 or so, which really shows you, obviously Minot is extremely remote, very nice, but would you rather pay $130 one way, or would you rather pay upwards of $400, $450, $500 to fly Delta or American or United through whatever hub it is? It definitely makes sense. And of course, this is the base fare that we're talking about. We'll get into some of the other fees like bags and seats momentarily, but anyway, it definitely goes to show, what kind of market that they have. And again, Allegiant, 75% of their routes are non-competitive, which is probably the highest number in the United States. So it's very impressive to see, and it's really cool to see that they have limited competition on these routes. That being said, let's go ahead and talk about some of the add-on fees. So of course, that was the base fare. You can find pretty good base fares on Allegiant, very reasonable. Then that gets us to the bags and seats, which in my opinion, I think are really fair. I believe you can get a carry-on bag for about $30, which very fair. I mean, that's good enough for most people. But again, as we've talked about in the past with these low-cost carriers, if you can get all your items in a backpack, you don't even need to do that. So, and that's what several people do that are on a budget. I know there's those blow-up bags that you can really compress and get a bunch of items into, which really helps. So there's many ways to get around that as well. Allegiant Air is a little bit higher on their seat selections, but again, it's at a premium on some markets. It just depends on what it is. I'm sure seat selection on Las Vegas to Indianapolis, for example, might be a little bit lower than what it is on Las Vegas to Minot, North Dakota. So I think it ranges from what I've noticed on my flights anywhere from $18 or so all the way up to, I've seen some extra legroom seats for $55, $60, but typically it's like 18 to 40 or so, which again, it's pretty reasonable. And it's also worth considering that most of Allegiant's travelers, what you're going to be able to score on quite a bit is most of these people, especially from the upper Midwest and regions like that on these longer segments, don't get to travel as often. You're going to be able to get them to bite on these seat selections so they can sit together, maybe even have extra legroom. Or what I'm trying to get to with this is they are okay with spending a little bit of extra money since they don't get to do it very often. With Frontier and Spirit, $9 for a seat might be all the more you can charge since these travelers are just trying to get from A to B. So a little bit different concept here, but I really feel like that's where Allegiant has established themselves. And we'll talk about that more on the return segment here. But first and foremost, I do want to talk about this particular segment, Tulsa to Destin, Fort Walton. This route started in 2019 and has become a fundamental here at Tulsa International Airport for summer leisure travelers. My family's used it several times, feeling fortunate to use it for my first time here. And it's a really great segment. It's only an hour and a half, which is really easy to get to the beach. And Destin's a wonderful city with so many opportunities for all kinds of activities. And it's a really cool establishment that Allegiant Air has. So I'll talk about it more on the return segment. But it's a really, really cool city, and it's a great opportunity for Allegiant to continue to make money off of these leisure travelers and still obviously, be a profitable operation, which is really cool. So no doubt that this segment's been very productive. It's operated 3 times a week in the summer, and it's been great for them along with, it's a very seasonal operation. So you'll see a bunch of planes during the summer and then a few during the winter. Not quite as many, but they still have a handful of routes during the winter months. So it definitely goes to show what Destin's capable of and what kind of passengers want to go here. So with that being said, I think we've established what we've needed to for the first part. So when we come back for the return flight, I'll go ahead and talk about my overall thoughts on Allegiant, what opportunities they provide the passengers, and overall just a little bit more on their operations. So with that being said, let's go ahead and land in Destin. I hope all of you enjoy this, and we'll take a brief look at the airport here during our weekend stay, and then we'll head back up to Tulsa with some more information. That being said, let's go ahead and land, everybody. I really hope all of you enjoy this. Alrighty, everybody, so take a look at the Destin Fort Walton Beach International Airport. So, of course, you have the main gates, that's where American Delta, Southwest, and United park, but then you have this new Allegiant extension, and this is another cool part of Allegiant's operation is they've had several airports, their main operations, where they develop their own section of the airport. So, for example, here at Destin, they worked in conjunction with the city to be able to develop a new SKU of gates. So they have 5 gates over there on a whole new pier of the airport, and it's super cool. It's a nice little area to relax and obviously have a little bit of space to work with for the airlines, so that's really cool. And they have some vendors as well, so it's more revenue for the airport and a little bit more spaced out, and provides plenty of expansion opportunity for the airline. So it's great to see them utilize this space in that way, and I definitely think that it's much more productive than Allegiant being at the main gates because it gets too cluttered in there, and obviously the other airlines need some space as well. So this is definitely a really cool layover, but nevertheless really great to see this, and overall super strong right here. So let's go ahead and load up for our return flight back out to the Tulsa International Airport. Today we're going to be on yet another Airbus A320, and it's going to be November 275 November Victor, which is a 17-year-old Airbus A320. I'll talk a little bit about the aircraft structure in a moment and the aircraft they choose to rock with, but it is pretty cool to see what Allegiant's doing, and they're able to utilize these aircraft to their fullest potential. So that being said, I hope all of you enjoyed this pushback and also enjoyed the ramp boarding as well. It was super cool, so what a vibe. And I also got invited to the cockpit, so feeling very fortunate for that. That was a wonderful experience. But that being said, let's just go ahead and get ready to take it on over to Tulsa.
Absolutely.
But it works.
You want anything to drink, brother?
And here we go for our takeoff, everybody. I really hope all of you enjoyed this power up, as it was really cool, and definitely note that catch wire as well. It was really sweet. Nevertheless, I'll be back for more here in a moment, but let's go ahead and take off, guys. Alrighty, everybody, so welcome back to the cruising session. So here we go to establish that second portion of what we were talking about. So let's get back to our concept of serving these markets that are pretty remote to others. So there's a couple of particular markets that Allegiant's really changed the airport at. Some examples include Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, and Appleton, Wisconsin. Some of these upper Midwest cities that have substantial air service from some of the other carriers like American Delta and United, but don't really have much else in the way of nonstop flights to leisure destinations such as Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Orlando, Tampa, Destin, and others. So that's where Allegiant's really scored, and they've been able to provide reliable opportunities to these leisure travelers that are interested in going to a leisure destination. So I think Allegiant's really scored with their model here, and I think they really serve a unique purpose. Obviously, Spirit and Frontier and Sun Country all have flights that are structured towards this, but it's not to the capacity of Allegiant because, once again, 75% of their routes are non-competitive, which I think really is what makes Allegiant what they are. They have a very monopoly structure operation, and you're able to get all these passengers and have really high load factors and be able to charge all these extra fees. But yeah, whoever was able to come up with the concept for Allegiant is a genius, because these communities, obviously nobody would ever think that flying an A320 to Minot, North Dakota for the weekend, 25 years ago would ever really be a profitable operation. But over time, people are able to catch on. Word of mouth is important, and people learn that, yes, this is actually possible, and Allegiant is a reliable carrier, and these airplanes are good enough for a 2-hour flight. So, it just takes time to establish it, and it takes time to gain consistency. But let's look at the Tulsa market, for example. Allegiant started service here about 10 years ago with their first flight to Orlando, and everybody was like, Allegiant, what's Allegiant? So, it just took time, and over time, it's like, yeah, this is actually good. And yeah, we can go to Disney, because at this time, Tulsa didn't even have a nonstop flight to Florida, which was crazy. But now we have like six, I don't know, it's like 6 or 8 routes, but whatever it is, it's a substantial amount. And Allegiant has made it possible, and it's made it a reality. So it's been so cool to see Allegiant continue that dedication and provide opportunities that otherwise we wouldn't have. And that's where I really want to establish not only that the operation's good, but just think about the purpose here, right? In my eyes, I think it's so cool that Allegiant Air is providing opportunities to families that wouldn't otherwise be able to go on vacations like this. This Destin trip for my family is a perfect example. Everybody really prioritizes nonstop flights and the convenience of getting there at an affordable budget. Allegiant's providing all of that for passengers. So my family probably wouldn't have went to Destin if it wouldn't have been for the nonstop flight. But fortunately, we have this nonstop flight, and we were able to take advantage of it and have a great weekend. So I just think it's so great that Allegiant, obviously starting with the low base fare, but then they're able to become profitable off of these other fees. And once again, these passengers are feeling fortunate that they're able to go to Las Vegas from the weekend from Nine Knot, North Dakota, or whatever route it is. It's like, yeah, we probably need some extra legroom for a 4-hour flight, which some of those are really longer. We probably need to take a suitcase so we're able to travel. All this adds up, and it ends up being, 50%, sometimes 75% less than the other routes. And that's why you're seeing Allegiant flying to more cities in the northern regions, going to the southern leisure cities than the southern cities. I mean, they do have quite a few routes out of some places in the southern regions, like Tulsa. Once again, 5 routes is pretty standard, but on the contrary, there's some cities like Albuquerque, New Mexico, and let's see, what's another good one? Another one would be like, St. Louis. Some of these routes or some of these cities only have so many flights. So compared to, once again, Cedar Rapids, I think they have like 12 flights, and Des Moines is a crew base for Allegiant. And that's really cool that they've established these crew bases at these really neat operations in the upper Midwest to provide affordable living to their employees, but also give them the opportunity to travel to places that they would want to go. So it's pretty cool. But anyway, back to this. And another cool perk of Allegiant is if you work for the airline, you actually end up back in your base every single night, which is really cool. So most of these aircraft operate 2 to 3 turns per day, which what that means is they'll start in the crew base. So for example, Tampa, and then a plane will go to Tulsa, come back, and then a plane will go to, let's go with Providence, Rhode Island, and then come back for the day, and that's it. Obviously, these flights are 2.5 to 3 hours, so it takes quite a bit of time. But then some other planes can maybe even do 4 segments in a day. So a plane will do Orlando, Key West, Orlando, Orlando, Savannah, Orlando, I don't know if somebody can give me one here, but Chattanooga, Orlando, and then Orlando, Raleigh, Durham, Orlando. As you can tell, the structure is really smart, and they're still able to make money on it, which is really cool. And once again, Allegiant operates to some of these smaller airports surrounding bigger communities to save money as well. So Tampa, St. Petersburg, they're the dominant carrier there. I think Sun Country is the only other one. Orlando, Sanford, dominant carrier, only a few other carriers. And then you have Phoenix Mesa, another prime example. And I think there's like one other airline at Phoenix Mesa. Anyway, when you have 98, 99% market share, people are going to catch on, people are going to learn. And it also is great for the people in these larger cities. Like, yeah, I want to go to wherever. What's a good example? I want to go to Raleigh for the weekend, or I want to go to Rapid City to see Mount Everest, or whatever it is. Or sorry, what was I looking for there? Let's see. Or they may want to go to the Rapid City to see Mount Rushmore, whatever the case is. And this isn't talking down on Frontier or Spirit. They obviously serve their purpose. But I think it's really cool to think about what Allegiant does for passengers and providing all these opportunities. I think my family alone has had about 12 trips over the last 10 years since they've entered the Tulsa market that has been possible. My parents have went to Tampa, Orlando, and Las Vegas and Los Angeles several times just because these nonstop routes are available. And once again, they're affordable. Of course, they get carry-ons and don't select seats, so you're able to save some money, but you kind of have to have a suitcase. So Allegiant's able to get it there. And also their buy on board program is another huge revenue source for them. Obviously, charging $4 for water, you're like, what the heck? But people buy it. I've watched it with my own eyes, and people are a little bit more understanding of this because, or a little bit more lenient because most of them don't get to travel as often. So it's a really great structure, not only for the passengers, but also for Allegiant. you can get there on an affordable budget, but if you want to spend more, you can, and it's that impulse buying that Allegiant really values, obviously. And it's kind of, it's a little bit of a trick to the mind, if you will, but at the same time, it's an option. It's up to the passenger. As of for my personal Allegiant experience, I've bought, seats because I'm an aviation enthusiast. Otherwise, the base fare has been about it. I've took a suitcase maybe once, but that was because they were on the end of another trip that I had a suitcase on, and I kind of needed a suitcase. So anyway, though, case in point, Allegiant's really cool. I think that they've done a really great job serving some of these markets that wouldn't have opportunities otherwise. I mean, if I was in Minot, North Dakota, which I'm not, but if I was, I would just feel extremely fortunate and grateful to have the opportunity to get to go to the beach on a nonstop flight instead of paying possibly 5 times as much to connect through somewhere, and the aircraft be kind of comparable. Minot has probably CRJ 200s and 700s, which I'm not saying that that's bad much, or that's worse than the Allegiant seats that they have, which are bearable, and that will be my final topic for this. But it's obviously, it can be about the same in some situations, but definitely the price is right. And that's my final point that I want to say is Allegiant's a very reliable carrier, and they definitely have proven since they've got rid of the MD-80, kind of sad, but obviously important, that they've been reliable, and that's been so great to see. And the reliability has definitely also led to their reputation improving. When they had the MD-80 and these overnight delays and cancellations, people became skeptical. But once they moved over to the Airbus fleet, and I'm sure the 737 MAX will be similar once they, got to the point where they could afford these aircraft, it became a very reliable operation. And then, as for the seats, it's not much to brag about. It's simple, right? But there are some ways to make it a little bit more enjoyable, such as the etched legroom seats. Obviously, you're going to pay as much as the base fare, if not more than the base fare, to do that, but it's an option. And when you're splurging and finally getting to go to the beach for the first time nonstop from Minot, that might be an appealing option to you. And it's still, that it goes farther than just Minot, I promise. Tulsa International Airport, let's look at Provo, Utah's another good one, or whatever city it is. I'm trying to think of another large, Grand Rapids, another really large establishment in Flint, Michigan. That's a really good one. There's operations there that people will splurge on it. It really works well for everyone. So I really enjoy Allegiant. I think they've done a really good job. I personally think, a little bit of hot take, but I think they're the best ULCC, not because of what markets they serve, but because of their reliability. And also, you don't see people getting into fights at Allegiant. You see that for Spirit and Frontier. Obviously, much different structure, much different market, and their employees, obviously, and so on and so forth. But I do think Allegiant truly has done a really good job serving what they do best, and I would highly recommend Allegiant, especially if you're able to get the prices right. Once again, Destin's a great city, along with all these other leisure cities that they fly to. I've flown all of them out of TUL, and I've enjoyed it every single time. They've truly done a wonderful job providing so many opportunities for consumers, and I'm feeling very fortunate for their presence here, and I'm glad that they fly to so many places around the United States. Their slogan on their website says cheap airline tickets, and I think it's right. Obviously you can add as much or as little as you want, but it's definitely affordable, and statistically speaking, they are some of the cheapest flights out there in the United States, especially places, once again, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, North Dakota. And not only that, but you also have the nonstop presence as well, and they've really transformed the landscape of these smaller airports. Elmira is a good example, and there's so many others that we could dive into as well. And even some places that they only have 2 routes. Grand Junction, Colorado is a great one, but that could make the difference for people. And it's really cool to see them have all this variety and these really cool operations like Destin, Orlando, Phoenix Mesa, and then they have some flights to cities like Los Angeles and Fort Lauderdale as well. So regardless, though, I think Allegiant's done a wonderful job with their operation. I'm really excited to see what their future goes. I hope they'll continue to add many more cool routes. I'm excited to see what their future is going to look like, and I think the 737 MAX will be quite the aircraft. So you'll see plenty more Allegiant coming on my channel. I'm not going to dive into another 20-minute assessment. This is what this video is for, but I really enjoyed it. I hope all of you did as well. Allegiant's great. The seat padding's good enough. You will get by, but again, the price is right, and I think so many people value that, and Allegiant's load factors can definitely speak to that, and also what they charge and what their profitability looks like. So with that being said, I hope all of you enjoyed this. Just making sure I didn't miss any other points. Also, the views on this were spectacular for most of the flights. I hope all of you enjoyed that. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and land back in Tulsa International Airport and summarize this experience. I hope all of you enjoy. Let's go ahead and touch down, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching this trip report with Allegiant Air on the round trip from Tulsa to Destin Fort Walton Beach on their Airbus A320. They did a spectacular job, the model is absolutely incredible, and I really hope all of you enjoyed this. Be sure to stay on the lookout for all that cool Destin content. We'll have some plane spotting along with some cool museums that we'll check out and all kinds of other fun videos from this trip as well. I hope all of you are excited for what's coming up. We have some really cool trips ahead and I hope each and every one of you are excited for them. With that being said, that'll do it for today's video, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. My name is Dreader of Aviation. Take it easy, everybody. Stay safe, trust the process. Do you love and love you do. My name is Dreader of Aviation. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon as Dreader of Aviation is signing off.